Hey Elflanes, it's Nico. I am exhausted. We're just gonna put that out there. I already made the Mermaid and Margarita Festival recap. This is actually going to be a much more personal video dealing with my disability and the changes that I am definitely seeing and noticing, especially today. I have always been a very independent elf. I have never ever really needed other people's help. I was always in my own world. I always just did things. If I needed help, I figured out a way around needing help. I was also very shy, but very independent. And with my disability evolving as it is, it's already been very, very difficult losing the ability to walk on a regular basis. It's been very difficult not knowing if I stand up, am I just going to collapse? Not knowing if I take a step, is my foot literally just going to give out under me? I've fallen so many times. I end up with so many ridiculous bruises just because my feet will give out. Or I also have a bad knee, which is made worse because I do not walk properly. I'm unable to. So my already hurt knee, injured knee, is just getting worse. And every once in a while, okay, not every once in a while, fairly often my knee will pop out of place. And I mean, it's my right knee. I call it my bad knee. But the past couple of years, my left knee has been doing that also, and I don't know why, because that was my good knee. So now I have a bad knee and a worse knee. But that happens on a fairly regular basis. It really does. And there's no rhyme or reason to when it happens. It just happens. Just like with me falling and my feet giving out, there's no rhyme or reason to it. It just happens. I will roll veins inside of my feet on the very bottom of my foot, and it will cause the vein to literally bulge out as it's kind of like the vein will bulge out, and it's like I have half of a ping pong ball sticking out of the bottom of my foot because it's just so bulged and swollen. And I can't walk on that. There's no way I can put pressure on that. So it's become very difficult to do the simplest tasks. Washing a load of dishes at the sink, a very small load like 4 bowls and silverware and a pot, will make my feet hurt to the point that my back will start seizing up and tightening. And that's very ridiculously painful also. So everything's connected, you know. The ankle bone's connected to the leg bone. It's all interconnected. It all ends up hurting. But when I first did my first Comic-Con, it was a year. It wasn't a whole year. It was several months after I've had 3 surgeries in the past 6 years. And it was the first of those 3 surgeries. It was a few months after I had literally gotten out of a cast, and I had just gotten out of my walking boot. And I remember after we set up the table, like, I carried things in from the car. I carried my boxes of stuff in. We set up our table. I was wearing this really beautiful skirt that Lori had gotten me. She got us matching skirts, and I had gotten us our shirts, and we were coordinated, and I felt like a princess. I had these beautiful little ballet flats on, and I stood in the aisle before the Comic-Con opened, and I spun around and the skirt just swirled so big. I was so happy. And I knew that that surgery was essentially the beginning of a gigantic change physically for me with my feet. I mean, I was born with my feet. It's called bilateral club foot, and on a scale of 1 to 10, mine was a 12. That is what the doctors, all of them, say. That was the severity of them. I'm very grateful for everything that's been done. Let me just get that out of the way. I am grateful. I have had such an amazing life and opportunities, and I guess I just took being able to walk for granted because it was a normal thing. Even if I was in casts most of my childhood, that didn't matter. It was just normal for me. Anyway, back to Comic-Con. We did it for 2 days. We were exhausted. It was fun. I helped break down the table and carry things back to the car. And then the next year, for the next Comic-Con, I couldn't. I couldn't really carry anything. I think I took one load from the car to get me from the car into the building, and I couldn't do it anymore. I could not make that walk, and it wasn't a far walk. I could no longer stand up next to the table and talk to people. I was sitting in a chair, and I had a surgery scheduled for later that year on my other foot because it had gotten to the point where I just couldn't walk on it anymore. I just couldn't. We weren't sure if I was going to end up being in a wheelchair during the Comic-Con, just because my inability to walk comfortably, safely, was it was sketchy. It was so sketchy. There was no, I'll be able to walk the 500 feet to the bathroom. I mean, there was no guarantee I'd be able to make it without falling flat on my face and being in severe pain and barely being able to get up. And during the second Comic-Con, I didn't walk around by myself. I didn't look at everything by myself. Lori gave me her arm, and I literally hung onto her arm every step that I took. She walked me to the bathroom, and she walked me back from the bathroom. And my husband walked me around, and I had like a death grip on his arm because I was so unsteady and I was in so much pain. And then the third year happened, and I had had that second surgery. And that surgery, even though everything in my foot lined up correctly, medically it was fine, I couldn't walk even more. My foot started curling. My foot's supposed to be straight, and my entire life I always walked on the inside of my feet. Well, the corrective surgeries that I had, which I needed, made it so I was walking on the outside of my feet. And the surgery went well. Everything was lined up the way the other foot was, but my foot started kind of curling in on itself. And I was literally walking on the edge of my foot, and that was severely painful. And it was scary. It was so scary because, I mean, I was unsteady before. This was like times 10 unsteady. And I had a very big fear that I would roll my ankle and I'd break something. And the doctor was worried that I was gonna get stress fractures in both feet. So after the third Comic-Con, which I didn't walk around at all, I had a cane. I had Lori's husband made me a cane. The minute her and her husband knew that I needed to have a cane to walk, which was after the second surgery. They made me one, and he's an amazing woodworker, and he made me a cane within 3 days. And it was amazing. And the third Comic-Con, I had the cane, and I only used it to walk to and from the bathroom twice because I couldn't walk anywhere by myself. And Lori offered to walk with me, and I was just like, no. I was so sad. I was so upset at my own body, and I didn't know how to handle it, but I was just like, I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to do this. I love interacting with the people. I love the children. It was fine. It was just I wasn't able to even look around. I wasn't. And my fourth Comic-Con was last year. Pretty sure it was number 4 last year. Lori was there, and Margie was there, and Kelly was there. Even though Kelly's table was not near ours, she was still there. And Kenley was there, which is her daughter. And everybody was so amazing, and nobody made anything seem like a big deal. And when I wanted to go around and look at stuff, Lori would come and gather me up, or Margie would give me her arm. And my husband manned the table so many times by himself. And I had to get walked around the con again. And it's kind of devastating not to be able to do something simple as walking. Not even for a far distance. Not even. It mentally, it's very anguishing. But I had come more to terms with it last year than I ever had in the previous years. And I mean, I know eventually I'll be in a wheelchair, which is fine. I'm going to walk until the very last minute, until I can't do it anymore at all. I will always push myself to go further. I'm never going to just give up. But it kind of brings me to this year. This year, I've been pushed by some amazing ladies to continue going out of my comfort zone and doing venues that I would never just do by myself. And I didn't have to do them by myself because Kelly was there, and Margie was there, and Lori's there. But I've always had help setting up things. My husband, he was there two shows ago. The Two Sisters fiasco. And even though I can help set up the tent, I can't set up the tent by myself. I can't break it down by myself. I mean, I can't. There's just no way. And today was the first day I've ever done something without Kevin or Margie specifically, because those two, Margie, her husband, was disabled, and it's apparently just been second nature to her to always just do things and like it's normal, which is fine. And Kevin has been very accommodating. He's never made me feel guilty about anything. But today was my first day without either of them. And Kelly just stepped in and she did stuff, but I felt like the biggest waste of space. I felt so useless. I mean, just for example, she got 3 of the tent legs set up before I even could get one. And then she had to help me with that one because I just couldn't do it. and like breaking it down. Also, it was similar. I mean, and we got this stupid thing so I could set it up by myself. And it turns out that I'm not going to be able to. I'm not ever going to be able to do something outside that requires the tent by myself. Ever. And that seems kind of dumb to be upset about, but that's just one example. It's just one example of how so many things have changed. Sorry. But it's just really difficult to accept that I am no longer able to do the things that I have always been able to do. And I'm trying to expand myself beyond that. Which is one of the reasons I have taken up sculpting. I can do it without standing on my feet and without having to walk long distances and stuff. And I can take breaks whenever I need to because my feet go numb at the dumbest times. Just sitting, like just for example, sitting here. I'm okay for the moment, but I could have had a foot go completely numb and if I stood on it, I would just be down. And I always have to make sure that I am near something so I can pull myself up. I can't tell you how many times I have been stuck on the floor for hours because I fell and there was nothing around to help me out. And one of the reasons I've never had a problem babysitting my brother's German Shepherds, and you guys have seen them, in past posts for the past couple of years. Other than the fact that he needed help, and I love them and I will always watch them, but they are helpful to me. And there have been so many times where I have fallen and they brace themselves so I can get up off of them. Like, I will just fall on the floor and they'll brace themselves so I can just push off of them and stand. But it's just so difficult to have my body changing like this. And I know people go through way harder things. I know there are worse things. And that's one of the thoughts I keep in my mind. It could be worse. I know that. And I try not to let myself dwell on this. But sometimes, like today, it just sticks out like a sore thumb. And it just reminds me how much less I can do to help anybody else like that. I am so sorry for sniffling and crying. But it's a change I don't like. And nobody should like it. I mean, it's a change that I'm accepting, but I don't have to like it, and I'm not going to. And I don't... I don't know what it's going to be like in the future for me. But I will say, I'm always going to do my best, no matter what. I'm always going to push myself, no matter what. And I am never going to give up. I won't be able to, because that would be worse. That would be worse than feeling useless.